Picture this. You are out on the open ocean. The water is a deep, unforgiving black, and the fog is so thick you can barely see the bow of your own boat. It is a cold, biting morning in late 1994. A routine maritime patrol is navigating the choppy waters of the North Pacific when the radar pings something unusual. A vessel, just drifting. No radio contact, no distress signals, just a silent blip on the screen. The patrol boat approaches cautiously, cutting through the heavy mist until the eerie silhouette of a mid-sized commercial fishing vessel emerges. It is completely intact. The lights are still flickering on the deck, and the subtle, rhythmic hum of the main engine reverberates through the freezing air. The Coast Guard attempts to hail them over the radio. Silence. They blast the horn. Nothing but the echo against the rolling waves. At this point, protocol dictates a boarding, but the seasoned officers already feel a knot tightening in their stomachs. Something is deeply wrong. As the boarding party steps onto the damp, salt-stained deck, the silence is deafening. They draw their weapons, expecting smugglers, pirates, or perhaps a medical emergency where the crew is incapacitated below deck. They move tactically, boots echoing against the metal grating, opening the heavy waterproof doors one by one. But when they breach the galley, the heart of the ship, they freeze. The scene before them defies all logic. The air is warm, smelling faintly of diesel and breakfast. Sitting right there on the bolted steel table are plates of half-eaten food, still soft, not yet hardened by the cold sea air. But the detail that sends a shiver down the spine of the lead officer is the coffee pot. It is sitting securely on a warming plate, and steam is actively rising from the dark liquid. The coffee is still hot. You have to understand what this means in the context of the freezing ocean. That coffee would go cold in less than an hour. The food would turn to stone. Whatever happened on this ship, whatever caused every single human being on board to vanish, happened mere minutes before the Coast Guard arrived. The officers look at each other in absolute disbelief. There is no blood. There are no bullet holes, no shattered glass, no signs of a desperate struggle. It looks exactly as if the crew just stood up in the middle of a sentence, pushed their chairs back, and walked off the edge of the world. And the creepiest part is, the ship is still steering itself. The autopilot is engaged, locked onto a heading that leads straight into the deep ocean. The boarding party searches the bridge. The radio is perfectly functional, tuned to the emergency channel. Yet no one even tried to make a call. The radar is spinning, the dials are glowing. But the humans who were operating this floating machine just a moment ago have been erased from existence. It is a literal ghost ship, and the nightmare is only just beginning. The immediate aftermath of this discovery turns into a frantic, claustrophobic search of the entire vessel, because the human mind desperately wants to find a logical explanation. The Coast Guard calls for backup, and soon more boots are on the deck, tearing through every cabin, every storage locker, and the freezing, damp cargo hold. They are looking for a leak, a fire, a gas cloud, anything that would force a sudden, panicked evacuation. But they find absolutely nothing out of the ordinary. In fact, the ordinary is what makes the situation so utterly terrifying. When they push open the doors to the crew's sleeping quarters, they find unmade beds with the sheets pulled back, as if someone had just woken up. Personal belongings are scattered exactly where you would expect them to be. Wallets stuffed with cash, family photographs taped to the bulkheads, passports securely locked in small safes, and heavy weather gear still hanging on the hooks. Now, any experienced sailor will tell you that the ocean is a merciless killer. And if you are forced to abandon ship, you do not leave your survival gear behind. You take your life jacket, you take your thermal suits, and you absolutely take the emergency beacon. But here, all the bright orange life vests are neatly stacked in their designated compartments. The survival suits are untouched. Even more chilling, they walk over to the side of the ship and look at the lifeboats. They are perfectly secured, strapped down with the original canvas covers. The crew didn't leave in the boats. So, did they jump? Why would a crew of hardened veteran fishermen collectively decide to throw themselves into freezing, deadly waters without a single piece of survival equipment? The search team eventually finds the ship's logbook sitting open on the captain's desk. The final entry was written in neat, calm handwriting just a few hours prior. It detailed normal weather conditions, a routine engine check, and a standard navigational coordinate update. There were no frantic scribbles, no warnings of an approaching storm, no mention of strange vessels nearby. Just a mundane snapshot of a completely normal day. The investigators even checked the hull and the engine room, searching for mechanical failures. The engines are running smoothly, purring like a well-oiled machine, and the bilge is bone dry. There was no catastrophic failure threatening to sink them. The ship was practically begging to be sailed, yet the air inside the lower decks feels suffocatingly empty, haunted by the presence of people who were just there. The investigators are left standing in the middle of the ocean on a fully functional, highly valuable piece of maritime equipment that has suddenly become a floating tomb, trying to wrap their minds around an impossible timeline. The steaming coffee keeps flashing in their minds. If someone had attacked them, where were the bodies? If they fell, how did all of them fall at once? It is an investigator's worst nightmare. A crime scene where the only evidence is the profound, deafening absence of the victims. Eventually, the Coast Guard makes the grim decision to tow the ghost ship back to port, and that is when the real, agonizing investigation begins. The dock is swarming with federal investigators, maritime authorities, and local police, all cordoning off the vessel like a biological hazard zone. The families of the crew are notified, and a devastating vigil begins on the shoreline. Who were these people? The manifest shows a crew of 7 men, all of them seasoned mariners who had spent most of their adult lives battling the unpredictable moods of the Pacific. These weren't amateurs who would panic at a large wave. The captain alone had over 30 years of experience and was known in the maritime community as a stickler for safety protocols. He was the kind of man who ran drills until his crew hated him. The kind of man who would never, under any circumstances, allow his ship to be abandoned without a mayday call. Background checks are run on every single member of the crew. Authorities look for massive debts, criminal affiliations, secret second lives, or any hint of a mutiny. But the results come back frustratingly clean. They were family men, fathers and brothers, who had purchased tickets for events back home, paid their mortgages on time, and had 0 red flags. Forensics teams board the ship in white suits, dusting every surface, spraying luminol in the dark, desperate to find even a drop of blood or a sign of foul play. The results only deepen the mystery. There is no blood. There are no strange fingerprints. There is no residue of explosives. No signs of forced entry on any of the exterior doors. The investigators even bring in experts to analyze the remaining food on the plates and the coffee in the pot, testing for poisons or hallucinogenic toxins that might have caused a mass psychotic break. The toxicology reports come back completely negative. It was just eggs, toast, and regular black coffee. The sheer lack of evidence is paralyzing. It is as if the universe simply reached down and plucked 7 men off the deck, leaving everything else perfectly intact. The maritime authorities begin interviewing other ships that were in the general vicinity on that day, hoping someone saw a military vessel, a pirate skiff, or even a weird weather anomaly. But the radar data from nearby stations shows no other ships within a 50-mile radius at the time the incident supposedly happened. They were utterly alone out there. The media catches wind of the story, and soon the docks are flooded with reporters, all broadcasting the chilling details of the untouched dinner and the warm coffee. It captures the public's imagination because it touches on a primal fear. We like to believe that when bad things happen, there is a reason, a trace, a story left behind. But this ship offered nothing. It was a blank canvas of terror, mocking the world's best investigators with its serene, undisturbed empty spaces. As the weeks turn into months, the vacuum of facts is quickly filled with theories, ranging from the scientifically plausible to the absolute fringes of the paranormal. The most grounded theory initially put forward by marine insurance adjusters is the rogue wave phenomenon. We know that the ocean can occasionally produce a massive freak wave out of nowhere, capable of washing an entire deck clear in a matter of seconds. But here is why that falls apart completely when you look at the evidence. A wave violent enough to sweep 7 experienced men away would have left catastrophic damage. The railings would be bent, the windows shattered. and the deck equipment would be ripped from its mounts. More importantly, it doesn't explain the men who were down below in the galley. You don't get washed overboard while sitting at a table eating breakfast inside a sealed cabin. Another theory suggests a highly organized, stealthy hijacking or pirate attack. Perhaps they were forced onto another vessel at gunpoint. But again, pirates rob ships. They take the expensive navigation equipment, they siphon the fuel, they steal the catch, and they certainly don't leave untouched wallets full of cash sitting on the beds. Furthermore, radar showed no other vessels. Then comes the infrasound theory, which is where science starts to sound like science fiction. Some researchers believe that under specific conditions, ocean waves and wind can create low-frequency sound waves that are inaudible to the human ear, but have profound effects on the human brain. This infrasound can reportedly cause intense feelings of dread, panic, and overwhelming terror. The theory goes that the crew was struck by a wave of this silent energy, suffered a collective intense panic attack, and hallucinated that the ship was sinking or on fire, prompting them to throw themselves overboard in a state of sheer madness. It is a terrifying thought, your own mind betraying you so violently that you seek refuge in the freezing, deadly ocean. But even this doesn't explain why they didn't grab life vests, or why the man drinking his coffee didn't spill it in his panic. The cup was neatly placed back on the warmer. If you are running for your life in a state of absolute delirium, you don't politely set your mug down. And of course, the dark corners of the internet have their own ideas. Alien abduction, portals, government testing of secret acoustic weapons. While these sound absurd, when the official channels fail to provide a single shred of rational explanation, the human mind is forced to wander into the dark. The investigators are left staring at a wall of dead ends, forced to admit that every logical explanation contradicts the physical evidence left on that ship. Fast forward to today, decades after that chilling morning in 1994, and the case remains one of the most baffling unsolved maritime mysteries of the modern era. The thick official case files are likely gathering dust in a government archive somewhere, filled with hundreds of pages of interviews, forensic reports, and expert testimony, all adding up to absolutely zero. The ship itself was eventually auctioned off, scrubbed clean of its haunting history, and put back into service. I often wonder about the new crew, sleeping in those same bunks, walking the same metal decks, knowing that the previous occupants simply vanished into thin air. But for the families of the 7 men, there is no closure, no moving on. They are forever trapped in a state of ambiguous loss. When someone dies in a storm or a crash, there is grief, but there is also finality. Here, they are left to endlessly replay those final moments in their heads, wondering if their fathers, husbands, and sons suffered, or if it was over in a blink. The ocean is vast, deep, and brilliant at keeping secrets. It covers over 70% of our planet, a massive dark frontier that we pretend to have mastered with our GPS and our radar. But stories like this remind us of how small and vulnerable we truly are. The image of that galley remains burned into the history of maritime lore. The plates of food, the chairs pushed back, the subtle hum of the engine, and that pot of coffee steaming quietly in the cold ocean air, waiting for a crew that would never return. It forces you to ask yourself a deeply unsettling question. What exactly is out there in the deep water, roaming the fog, capable of erasing a group of grown men without a single sound? The next time you look out at the ocean, past the breaking waves and into the dark horizon, remember the ghost ship of 1994. Remember that no matter how much technology we build, there are still forces in this world that can make us disappear without a trace, leaving nothing behind but an empty chair and a warm cup of coffee.